Making up the rest of Astral Radiance, which will be our May set, the full set list for Space Juggler and Time Gazer in Japan have been fully revealed, and thanks to Talonite X, proxies are already available. As PokeBeach notes in their article, not all cards from Space Juggler and Time Gazer will make their way into Astral Radiance, so keep that in mind as I preview some of the highlights. We should get a complete set list for Astral Radiance in early to mid-May, right around when pre-releases start. Around that time, I'll have several more Astral Radiance videos up, and hopefully Pokemon TCG Live will be a smoother experience so people don't get frightened by my gameplay videos. I'll do my best to separate the cards into tiers with the best cards up first, so let's get started with what should have a huge impact on competitive play, Gardenia's Vitality. Grass Welder. That's the easiest way to describe Gardenia's Vitality. At its core, it allows you to attach 2 basic grass energy from your hand to a Pokemon. There are some key differences that make it both better and worse than Welder though. For starters, you draw 2 cards before attaching energy, so you can use Gardenia without any energy in your hand. Obviously, it could just end up being a draw 2 if you fail to draw energy, but it's still nice. The drawback is that you can only attach to a benched Pokemon. One major reason why Gardenia could see a lot of play is Temple of Sinnoh. The Pokemon Company doesn't like special energy, that much is clear. Dusknoir shuts it off, and Beedrill one-shots Pokemon with special energy. Now, with Temple of Sinnoh, an Arceus V-Star deck can do away with double turbo energy if it wants, and just go heavy on grass energy. This means we'll likely see decks run a 2-2 Gossifleur Eldegoss line to increase consistency. Plus, Gossifleur has the best call for family attack in the game, letting you put 3 basics on your bench for a single energy. Probably the best partner for Gardenia at the moment is the new Hisuian Lilligant V-Star. For 3 energy, it can deal 230 damage, but you do have to put an energy back into your hand. Not exactly a deal breaker. The V-Star power also helps with consistency, letting you get 5 energy, 5 Pokemon, or any combination of the 2. Pair Lilligant with a Choice Belt to do 260, then add the Quit Shooting Inteleon line, and suddenly taking out a VMAX isn't such a daunting task. Or you could chuck in a Beedrill and one-shot anyone crazy enough to still use special energy. Essentially a less destructive Acrobike, Trekking Shoes is an item that lets you see the top card of your deck. You can either draw it or discard it and draw the next card in your deck. I was already thinking Gutsy Pickaxe might make its way into decks because it turns your 60 card deck into a 56 card deck, but Trekking Shoes is just better. I think Wormadam Zoroark loves it, as does pretty much any deck with a core strategy. You know what deck needed more consistency? Mew VMAX, of course. Featherball lets you go get any Pokemon from your deck with 0 retreat for absolutely no cost. Mew V and Mew VMAX have free retreat, so the combo is perfect. And if you want to take the risk and play Jolteon V and Jolteon VMAX in a Manaphy meta, Featherball also lets you get both of those for free. Now, when I first saw Temple of Sinnoh, I thought it would be absolutely meta-breaking, but over time that excitement faded. Path to the Peak is still the best stadium for disruption. Temple of Sinnoh, however, shuts down all special energy, turning it into a colorless energy with no effect. Sounds great, but your opponent still has all their V abilities and can just bump it on their turn. Dusknoir is still better in this regard since you can play Path to the Peak and Dusknoir at the same time. However, Temple of Sinnoh can still be annoying, just not as much as I originally thought. Borrowing Heatran GX's ability, Weirdeer V lets you move any amount of energy from your other Pokemon to it whenever it moves from the bench to the active. Then, it does 40 damage for each energy attached to it, and special energy counts. Weirdeer is going to be an amazing finisher in a lot of decks that can reliably put energy on the field, because all you need is 8 energy in play to do 320 damage. Between Arceus V-Star and Gardenia's Vitality, that's not as far-fetched as it was just a few months ago. For the final card, in what I would consider the top-tier new cards from these sets, we have Super Effective Glasses. Super Effective Glasses is a tool that turns weakness from ×2 to ×3. Kecleon changes type based on the energy attached, so now Kecleon can deal 270 damage to pretty much any Pokemon except dragons. Super Effective Glasses also opens up more possibilities for toolbox decks, allowing you to hit different weaknesses harder. And if you're thinking Honchkrow V can deal ×12 damage to a Mew VMAX, the wording on the card is very specific. It only changes it to ×3 regardless of how many are attached. Since this is a preview video, not all cards here are going to be Tier 1 meta definers. I'm just letting you know some interesting cards that are coming, and Tier 2 will be cards that could see some play but probably won't shake things up too much. The new Leafeon is interesting, just not fantastic. For a single colorless energy, you can search your deck for 3 different types of basic energy and attach them in any way you like. It's the exact same attack as Xerneas from Celebrations, except Xerneas needs 2 colorless energy, though Xerneas does have the benefit of being a basic. The new Eevee probably won't replace the Energy Evolution Eevee in Expanded, but in Standard, it's still not going to see much play. Sure, the ability blocking evolutions might grow in popularity, but until we get some truly good evolutions, this is just a card you'll want to keep in the back of your mind for the future. As we've known for a little bit now, VMAX Pokemon aren't going anywhere this year. There are still several on the way, including Machamp VMAX. If we didn't live in a world where Mew VMAX existed, Machamp VMAX would be great. 220 damage for 2 energy, and all you need is a bench Pokemon with a damage counter. Gapejaw Bog fulfills that requirement, but the Psychic weakness holds it back from being anything top tier. Effectively a reprint of Team Magma's secret base from Double Crisis, Gapejaw Bog is a stadium that puts 2 damage counters on any Pokemon that goes from either player's hand onto the bench. Single Strike Morpeko can use it well, as can Hisuian Samurott V-Star. It's also just a fairly simple way to put a bit of damage on an opponent's Pokemon. Will it see more play than Path to the Peak and Temple of Sinnoh? I'd say no, but there's a few decks out there that will absolutely love it. Making Expanded even more insane, Origin Dialga V-Star allows you to deal 220 damage and take another turn for 5 energy. Pair that with Dialga GX and you can take a third turn. Mix in Machamp V and you can do something like 5 turns in a row. Obviously, the Machamp V will require a lot of finagling in there, but the possibility has now opened up to basically stop your opponent from playing the game for 20 minutes. As for the main attack, it does 40 damage plus 40 more for each metal energy attached to it. Put 7 metal energy on Dialga, deal 320 damage. The other Origin Pokemon coming in Astral Radiance, Palkia V-Star isn't as exciting as Dialga, but the V-Star power is still pretty good. It allows you to attach up to 3 water energy from your discard pile to your water Pokemon in any way you like. Arceus V-Star is still probably the better option in terms of both energy acceleration and V-Star power, but Palkia's power is still basically 3 Aqua Patches, and that's nuts. Unfortunately, the main attack is weaker than I was hoping for, and unlike Suicune V, it can't take advantage of Ludicolo's damage boost since Palkia is technically an evolution Pokemon. What's that? Another card that benefits Mew VMAX? Well, actually, Hisuian Heavy Ball benefits a lot of decks, including Durant Mill. By playing the Heavy Ball, you can search your prizes and take any basic Pokemon. If you play a deck with a lot of different basics, or you're just risk averse, chuck a copy into your deck and make things more consistent. Keeping the grass support rolling, Kricketune gives all your other grass Pokemon plus 40 hit points. We'll have to see how important that truly is in terms of surviving a hit, but if you use Kricketune and Big Charm, suddenly your Dhelmise VMAX and Venusaur VMAX have 400 HP. Unless you're being hit for weakness, you're not getting one shot at 400. A Leon specifically for fighting types, Grant allows you to recycle a single copy over and over the entire game if you want to. A 30 damage boost could make a huge difference for some decks, and fighting is getting energy acceleration with Gutsy Pickaxe, so I'm expecting one copy to be in all fighting decks, cause why not? Do I smell a new rogue deck? Oh, no, that's just me. I haven't showered in a while. For a single metal energy, Bisharp does 30 damage times the number of damage counters on your bench Pawniard. If you put down 4 Pawniard with Gapejaw Bog in play and use Zoroark to loop Bisharp, it's 240 damage. Use someone like Donphan, and that damage can absolutely skyrocket. Now we enter Tier 3, cards that either downright suck or won't see much play for whatever reason, but I still wanted to highlight. First up is Bronzong. The last time we saw Heatproof Bronzong see play, Welder was reigning supreme and Bronzong could just win you some games. Now, even if fire types do make a comeback, odds are they'll be paired with Arceus V-Star. At most, you might see a single copy in a Wormadam Zoroark deck, but that's probably it. Maybe I'm being too harsh on Luxray V, but I don't see it. The first attack only does 30 damage and you can only discard a trainer, nothing else. The second attack does paralyze, but Zekrom does the same thing, but better. If you're really worried about your opponent bossing up a Pokemon V when they have 2 or fewer prizes left, sure, Thievul makes sense. But it's really only useful if they have 2 prizes left, because if they have 1 left, they'll just boss up Thievul, so it kind of makes it very, very situational. Taking Celestial Storm Swampert's ability of discard 1 and draw 3, I don't think Hisuian Samurott will make its way into Darkrai V-Star decks. Sure, it does more damage for all the darkness energy you have in play, but I just don't think it's a fit being a stage 2 and all. We already have plenty of ways to accelerate metal energy, including Metal Saucer and Zacian V, so is Magnezone really worth at least one stage 2 spot in a deck? Even if you're playing Origin Dialga, it's still probably smarter to just use Arceus V or V-Star with Bronzong, so I don't expect to see Magnezone getting a whole lot of play. A fun way to mess with your opponent, Golduck discards both active Pokemon for 3 energy. Frostmoth can power it up, and you can always promote a Miltank or something to frustrate your opponent even further. I imagine Golduck could be the backbone of a stall deck, so if you ever see a Psyduck on someone's bench, be afraid. I did want to put Golduck in tier 2, but I kind of want to sway people away from using it in stall decks because Golduck could be absolutely insane if people get it powered up and use it correctly. So we're just going to leave it in tier 3 and hopefully no one sees it. Echoing Glaceon EX and its Crystal Ray attack, the new Glaceon's Frost Veil attack makes it immune to damage from evolution Pokemon. Obviously, Escape Rope or Boss's Orders breaks that, but if your opponent gets too greedy and overbenches and over-evolves, you do have a way to punish them. We already have a really good single prize setup card in Snorlax from Vivid Voltage, and Minccino from Brilliant Stars has a bench 2 call for family, but Shaymin is still interesting. If you go second, you can use this attack and go get any 3 cards from your deck. If Marnie doesn't get a reprint, which is looking unlikely, the only hand disruption come September will be Judge. It's so nice seeing 0 energy attackers back in the game. Hisui and Voltorb is very situational, but if you go second, you can attach 2 basic energy from your deck to 2 different bench Pokemon for nothing. I think it'll see more play than, 0 play, especially if Kecleon does become a thing. Remember Switch Raft? This is that, but for basic Pokemon. You switch your active with the bench Pokemon, then heal 30 damage from the Pokemon that move to your bench. If your deck only has basics, it's great. If it's an evolution heavy deck, it's kind of problematic. However, though, we haven't received our Switch reprint yet. If the Pokemon Company decides to hold it back for Scarlet and Violet base set in early 2023, we might have to start playing Switch Cart for the last few months of this year. We'll have to wait for an official ruling on Politoed, but if the damage stacks, it still sucks. Even if you manage the impossible and get a Poliwag, Poliwhirl, and Poliwrath on your bench, the attack still only does 280 damage. There's much easier ways to do 280 damage. Do you wish you could have a severely nerfed experience share that also gave up 2 prizes and was shut off by Path to the Peak? Then Jirachi V will be your new favorite Pokemon card. Unlike Jirachi V, Oranguru V does have some use. The 210 hit points moves it out of the complete danger zone, and the ability allows you to go get 2 tool cards from your deck. The Inteleon line is still better for your trainer needs right now, but if Pachirisu is a deck you want to play, Oranguru V should probably be in it. Zissou is interesting. It's kind of like Copycat, but instead of shuffling your hand into your deck, you just straight draw until you have 1 more card than your opponent. I doubt it'll see too much play because cards that rely heavily on your opponent are always tricky to pull off successfully. Pokebeach's translation for Greedent's attack is Dump. That's it, just dump. You can deal 210 damage for a twin energy, but you do have to discard at least a 5-card hand. Maybe a copy sneaks its way into Wormadam Zoroark, but I'm struggling to see how this could be good on its own. If you have 4 Beedrill V in play, you can snipe 200 damage wherever you want. It even pairs well with Gardenia, but getting 4 V on the field isn't easy, especially if your opponent starts taking knockouts. Plus, 200 damage isn't even that much in this day and age. I say nay. A lot of cards lately do boosted damage for the amount of energy attached to your opponent's active. Orbeetle accelerates that process by attaching 3 energy from your opponent's discard to their Pokemon in any way you like. Obviously, it's a stage 2 and that sucks, and your opponent has to have energy in their discard, but it's still nice seeing such an interesting ability. While Machamp VMAX would be good in a world without Mew VMAX, Heatran VMAX is just never going to be good. Healing 50 and dealing 180 isn't going to cut it in this day and age. Think of it this way, the base damage of Heatran's attack is less than Arceus V-Star, but Heatran gives up 3 prizes instead of 2 and doesn't have a V-Star power. It is bad. All of the Regis are coming in Astral Radiance. Regigigas can deal 300 damage to a VMAX for 5 energy, but that's not great. The ability can accelerate energy into play, but you have to have all the Regis down to do it. Regidrago, meanwhile, can let you draw until you have 4 cards in your hand, but the 3 retreat cost kills its usefulness. Yeah, these are not good. If you manage to get 4 Bastiodon in play, you're only reducing the damage dealt from Pokemon V by 120. And even if you manage to pull that off, it's not like you're protected against a single prizer like Malamar. You're better off sticking with Charon's Care and Cheryl for now, unless you really think that 30 damage will make a difference and you can find room for Dream Ball. I don't know if I can see Cleavor V-Star being a deck on its own. With Grant and Choice Belt, you are dealing 180 and sniping 60 to a V, but if they have Manaphy or just a single prize deck, it's kinda useless. The V-Star power, however, could be something. If you want to run a 1-1 line in Wormadam Zoroark plus a fighting energy, go nuts. 30 damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile means it could do big damage fairly easily. Unfortunately, it can't attack for a double turbo energy, just a single fighting energy, so it might be more work than it's worth. Another free attack, this Decidueye deals 30 damage times the amount of damage counters on their active. If Dartrix was similar to Drizzile in its usefulness, maybe, but can you really justify this stage 2? I think Dream Ball is the only way to give Decidueye a fighting chance. There's a few other cards like Gastrodon that does 170 damage for 3 energy, Hisui and Avalugg that can deal 220 damage for 4 energy if there's a stadium in play, and a Malamar that has an attack that probably doesn't stack, but I feel like I've covered enough today to get you up to speed on Astral Radiance. So let me know in the comments which card you're most excited for, and stay tuned for lots more videos in the future.